Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we got a video that I've been waiting to record for a very long time. It's a subject that bothers me quite a bit, right? And you've seen a little bit about this on the media. You've seen a handful of people talk about it. I think the difference is, right, in my case, is that from the people that I've heard talk about this, the difference is that I've met the individuals that have fallen victim to this, right? And not one or two, but a lot of them. I didn't keep track, it doesn't matter what number it is. It's too many. One is too many, right? And it's been a lot of them. I spent 12 years incarcerated. Those of you that follow my content, you know that I spent 12 years incarcerated. And during that time, I got to hear a lot of stories, met people firsthand that have been victims of the criminal justice system, right? And if you listen to my content, you know that this is not critical theory. This is not me trying to, pour me, that's not the purpose of my content, right? I'm trying to bring awareness, and I think there's ways that the system can be improved, ways that it can be improved without breaking it, right? I'm not saying, let's break the system and let anarchy take over, right? That's not good for anybody. So that's not what I'm after. That's not my goal. That's not my vision. Before we get started on the subject, I think it's also important for me to point out that I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. Anything that you hear from me, go ahead and check with your attorney, right? If you're in this situation or you know somebody that's in this situation that we're going to be discussing, have them talk to an attorney, a quality attorney, right? But here's what we're talking about. It's that I met a lot of guys that were charged with, convicted of rape, and a number of those, right? When I say a number, once again, I didn't keep track. Too many of them claim to be innocent, and I genuinely believe them. One of the things that I think I've gotten pretty good at over the years, especially because of my time in prison, is being able to read people, right? Being able to read whether somebody's being authentic, somebody's being genuine, if what they're saying, right, if they really believe it, right? So I can still be fooled by somebody who genuinely believes their own lies, and that's always a possibility. But it's no secret, right, in our society that there are men that are charged, right? Charged and convicted of rape or some sort of sexual abuse, and they're innocent. They did not do this. And we should all be concerned about this, men and women, because even for women, right, this affects your husband, right? Your husband could be falsely accused of this at work, falsely accused of this, while he's on a trip or whatever, right? Your son could be, right, falsely accused of some sort of sexual misconduct, or even like your husband could be, here's another scenario, your husband could be accused of some sort of sexual misconduct 20 years ago. Now you're married to him, you guys have a beautiful family, he's a quality guy, and then all of a sudden, right, 20 years later, somebody decides, right, that to fabricate false charges against them, and now your entire life is turned upside down, right? You as the wife, all of your children. Think about all the shame you're going to go through. Think about, all the legal expenses, right? The legal costs if you have to defend it in court. And then if you have a business, depending on the type of business, it can have actual economic consequences, right? Like it can completely destroy your business depending on the kind of business you guys got. Or it could lead to him getting fired, once again, completely destroying and turning, your life upside down economically, right? Not just from an economic standpoint, but from every standpoint, right? So anyways, it's a real thing. And we all know that there's people out there that are damaged, right? Psychologically damaged, emotionally damaged, and people that are callous, right? That have no compassion for somebody else, right? Somebody crosses them and does something to them that pisses them off, right? And there's no end in sight, right? There's no limits to what they will do to destroy that person's life. So if we get back to the subject matter here, so what I'm talking about is, so this has got to get fixed, right? This is a major problem in our society, major problem. And I think it got significantly worse ever since the Me Too movement, right? And the Me Too movement obviously, brought about some good things, right? Some good changes, right? There's probably some abuse going on, right, by some men and some women, right? But it's one of those things where it was blown out of proportion, and I think some people decided to use it now to weaponize it. Now it's a weapon. It's a club that gets carried around, and it's a club that can be, I don't even know how to use the analogy there, but it could be, you know what I mean, that you can get clubbed over the head for something that you did not do, right? That somebody made up, because you can just make that stuff up. Somebody can just make that up, and then 20 years later you get hit upside the head with it, right? So it's a major problem. You understand? Like, this can completely destroy our society if it keeps going in a direction that it's going. Use a little bit of common sense. It could completely destroy our society. And I think no one's really talking about that part of it, right? We're just looking at the, you know, the specific examples, the Weinsteins, the Epsteins, or whatever, right? But if it keeps going in this direction, that's for another video. But you use some common sense. It'll destroy the society completely. And then I'm not sure, you know, if the powers that be, right, the Matrix and all that, if that's what they're after. Maybe that's what they're trying to accomplish. And that's once again a conversation for another video. I got some, you know, very well thought out process, right, or thought out kind of explanation for that there, right? Because I've had that discussion with a number of guys that are very patriotic, and they've wondered why is it that this and that is happening in society? Why is it that this is being pushed and that's being pushed? Why, you know, why are they trying to destroy America, right? And like I said, that's for another video, and that could be, we can talk about that. So anyways, so the point is, getting back to this, I met a lot of guys, right, that were convicted of that. And just so you know, right, I don't even know if how many people realize this, but if you are charged and convicted of that, it's not a small thing. It's a major conviction. We're talking about, you're spending a lot of time in prison, first off, right? You're gonna do a lot of time, first off. Secondly, even after you get out, like, you're gonna hate life. Like, there are people that get out and decide to just commit suicide, right? Because it's so bad, like, it's so restrictive. Now look, if somebody actually is a pedophile, for example, right? And they get out after 10 years or whatever, sure, have all those restrictions, right? Have all those restrictions if they're actually guilty, right? And that's the challenge, right? That's part of the challenge. But if you have a grown man, right, that gets accused by some crazy ex-girlfriend, right? Two grown adults, gets accused of that, and then he gets out after serving his time, assuming he's guilty, right? In this scenario, like, you understand that this could totally be a one-off type thing. The dude was drunk, made a mistake, he paid the consequences, right? Paid the consequences. Let him live his life. Let him live his life, right? It's funny because, you know, people that are convicted in general, right, for a felony, right, and you know, you carry that with you, generally speaking, right? There's exceptions. Generally speaking, you carry that for the rest of your life with you. But for sex offenders, it's even worse. It's not just a scarlet letter, right? It's not just that you're a felon. You're a sex offender. And there's all sorts of restrictions. I mean, just stuff that you would not believe. And that's for another video. We can go into the nuances and specifics of it. And like I said, sometimes it's warranted, but sometimes it's just too much. It's crazy. Like, it's, for example, I met one guy and he's dealing with this, right? I met this one guy, who knows, you know, how much of this is accurate, right? Like I said, I thought he was being honest. I believed him. And he said that apparently there was some sort of infidelity, right, in his marriage, right? And his wife found out, and she decided to get back at him by accusing him of rape. She accused him of rape. And what she did is that she waited till the next day, right? Called police, called family and all that. There was no evidence. There were no bruises, no scratches, nothing, right? To indicate that he had actually raped her. But he was charged, he was convicted. When I met him, he had already spent over 8 years in prison. And this was just a solid dude, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, just based on my estimation, a quality person. And it wasn't like some drunkard, you know what I mean? This guy was like a super LDS, you know, followed all the rules, you know what I mean? Very serious, very respectful with everyone. He was a quality guy. It's funny because even, like, you know, among sex offenders, right? Because he was considered a sex offender, you saw that he was respected even by the people that normally would not respect sex offenders. But it's because you could see it in his eyes. It's not because he was this big, rough and tough guy that people were afraid of. It was just because you could tell he was a quality guy, you know? Anyways, so his wife did this to him, and after 8+ years, she felt bad for him, right? This is his story, right? He told me, he says that she felt bad, and it was because the children, right? The children, they had several children together, a lot of children together, and they wanted their dad back. And they talked mom into going to his board hearing And not saying that, you know what I mean, like, because the children, you know what I mean, they don't know whether or not it happened, right? They just wanted their dad back. It'd been 8 years. And using any sort of like reasonable metric, I mean, if there were no bruises, no cuts, no, you know what I mean, if it was just, you know what I mean, if he actually was guilty, right, of simply, you know, if he was actually guilty of maybe being a little too demanding with his wife, right, and had sex with her, maybe she wasn't too willing or whatever, if he was actually guilty of something like that, right, nothing super violent or brutal or anything like that, just, right, if he was, you know, he did 8 years. He did 8 years, right? Like, it, you know, I mean, how much time are you going to give the guy, right? That's another problem with our criminal justice system. When it comes to certain crimes, we give people way too much time. Way too much time. That doesn't do anybody any good. Do you understand how miserable it is to be in prison? Like, miserable. And especially if you got one of those charges. Like, a year is a long time. A year is so long. Like, you don't even know. It completely will change somebody. And this guy had already done 8 years of his life, right? Locked up. And if he was guilty, shame on him, right? He shouldn't have done that. If he wasn't guilty, which I don't think he was, it's like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, imagine that. Losing 8 years of your life because your wife decides that she's gonna get back at you with no proof, no evidence, no witnesses, nothing at all. And that was his situation. Anyway, so the kid, you know, convinced mom to go to his board hearing, right? To ask that he be released. Not that, you know, not to say that he didn't do what she allegedly says that he did, but just to ask that he be released, that he's done enough time, and that's what she did. And the board finally decided to, you know, let him out. I think he ended up doing about 9 or just a little bit over 9 by the time, you know, he got his date and all that, somewhere in that range. But that's crazy. Do you understand? Like, if you're married and you're watching this, like, understand this could easily happen to you. And the interesting thing is this, right? As controversial as this is, right? If you understand the nature, the human nature, let's start with that. If you understand human nature, you understand that it's even a real nice person is capable of doing some pretty bad stuff, right? That includes your wife. Secondly, if you understand the nature of some women, right? We're gonna say some, you understand that they're very emotional and impulsive, right? Some. Now there's some men that are like that as well. The reason I bring that up is because the more you understand human nature, the more you understand the nature of women, you understand that it's your wife can go from being this loving, perfect wife, you know, that loves you and loves your family, to being, you know, a crusader, right? Ready to burn you at the stake. All you have to do is just, and it's not all women, right? But it's some women, right? They're just too emotional, too impulsive, too damaged, right? Let's be honest, too damaged to the point where, like, they relish vengeance, right? They enjoy watching somebody else suffer. They want somebody to pay disproportionately, right, for pain that they feel. So anyways, getting back to the conversation here, so it's something that's got to change. I know it's controversial, but for those guys, right, that are listening, whether you're married or you're dating your girlfriend or you're, you know, whatever, understand that this is reality. This is not just hypothetical. No, there's a bunch of guys right now locked up in prisons all over the country, in different states, in every single state, that are innocent. And they're paying, you know, with their life. They're paying years and years, you know, they're just rotting in prison for years, and they're completely innocent. Yeah, so understand that the way that the system is set up, she doesn't have to provide proof that you raped her. There doesn't have to be physical evidence to prove it. All that's required is some crocodile tears, and for a police officer and a private investigator, right, the detective that's investigating the case, to believe her. If he believes her, right, then he screens the case, right, at the police station. He screens it, sends it up to the prosecution's office. It's screened there by a prosecutor. And if the prosecutor that's there believes it, right, and it's all discretionary, right? If you listen to my content, you understand that that's part of the problem within our criminal justice system, is that there's so much discretion at every level. I understand there's got to be some discretion. Don't get me wrong, I get that. But there's got to be some checks and balances for prosecutors, some checks and balances for detectives, for police officers, because if you don't have those, horrible injustices can take place. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. I don't mean to scare you, but I think it's the truth, right? It's the truth, it's reality, and I think more people should be talking about this. I think more people should know what I just shared with you guys, right, in this video here, because you got to protect yourself, right? it's crazy. We live in a crazy time right now, and I think some changes need to take place. Otherwise, our entire society is yeah, it's fucked. You know what I mean? If I can just be blunt that way, I mean, it's just play this out. Play this out like a chess game, right? Play this out a few more decades, and you can see what this would look like. It's just gonna be, it's chaos. And I say decades, it might not even be decades. It could be the next few years, you know. So, anyways, share this with a friend. Keep this in mind, and careful to pick a quality partner. All right, I'll see you guys in my next video. I'm not an attorney, and this is not legal advice.